What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. So today I'm going to share with you 7 exercises that I swear I will never do again. I mean, never. I promise. So much so that I'm actually not even going to demonstrate the exercises. They are. Now, there's something very important we have to get out of the way here, and that is, these are not the worst exercises. Those I actually put together in a video that I will link for you at the end of this one. You're going to want to check those out. I'm talking about the exercises that I personally will never do again. And the reasons might actually surprise you. By the way, do you have any exercises that bother you or you just won't do? Make sure you leave them below and tell me why. That being said though, it's time for me to start breaking down my list one by one. And the first exercise up here is the decline bench press. And notice I didn't say the flat bench press or even an incline press because I like those two versions of the exercise, but not this one. And the first big reason why, I don't like the way I feel when I do the exercise. Because as soon as I assume that decline position, the blood rushes to my head and I worry more about how I'm feeling or how good I'm not feeling instead of actually the exercise that I'm doing. And on top of that, we have a tendency to get our shoulders into more internal rotation as the weight approaches our chest, which is not a good biomechanical reason for me to love the exercise. But beyond that, guys, getting in and out of the exercise is a pain in the ass. And when I realize that I have other exercises like dips or a high to low crossover that hit the lower chest just as effectively, I just want to pass on this version of the bench press, in this version only. All right, so this next one's kind of personal. I hate the lying hamstring curl machine. And it's the reason why I'm filming this in front of a black wall, because I don't have one in this gym. Let me tell you a little story. When I was at the New York Mets and we were in Cincinnati, I had to work out in the visitors clubhouse. And they had one of those old broken down lying hamstring curl machines. And knowing what I know about the exercise and how it ruins your back, I kind of did it anyway because I wanted to work my hamstrings. Well, by the end of the night, I actually had to have 2 players help me up off the bench to get out of the dugout. I hate the lying hamstring curl. And to elaborate, it's the exercise mechanics that I have a problem with in the first place, because not only is it an open chain way to train your hamstrings when we have better options, but you're just reinforcing overactivation of the hip flexors. Think about it, when you do the exercise, you're driving your thighs down into the pad, getting those hip flexors engaged in order to help you to lift your heels up. With that overactivation comes oftentimes spasm of the low back because we realize those hip flexors attach to the lumbar spine. Again, better exercises exist anyway. We talked about the glute ham raise not only incorporating hamstring flexion, but also glute activation at the same time, and even the slick floor bridge curl as an exercise that we can do with just our own body weight. There's way better options out there, and I'm going to continue to hold my grudge against the lying hamstring curl. Now, I don't want to piss off any calisthenic athletes with this exercise choice, but we're talking about the muscle up. And it's not necessarily the exercise being bad or that I don't see the function of it. I do, but it's the transition between the parts of the exercise where my problem is. See, if we talk about the pull-up and the dip, they're 2 great exercises and definitely 2 that I will never stop doing. But when we transition from one to the other, well, that's when it becomes iffy, because in order to do it, you got to go through a hell of a lot of shoulder internal rotation. And that's my problem with the movement. And for me, with 2 torn labrums, this exercise has never felt comfortable, whether I do it slow and controlled or whether I do it out of control with momentum. So while for some it may be a major part of their calisthenics game, for me, it just brings me nothing but pain. So I'll pass. All right, so mom always told me, if you're going to say something not so nice about somebody, start by saying something nice. And I did already about the muscle up. But here, it maybe will piss off a couple calisthenic athletes, but I'm not trying to. It's just that the bicep push-up doesn't exist. There is no push-up that actually works the biceps to any significant degree, or at least more than it works the triceps. When you extend the elbow, you work the triceps, period. So I'm not doing push-ups to work my biceps. If I want to work my biceps, I'm going to do a curl every single time. You won't find me doing the bicep push-up ever again, or ever, or maybe only when I made that video. All right, so this next one I don't do is actually because I have too much respect for the exercise and those that do it well. And we're talking about the snatch. This is an Olympic movement that needs to be given the attention that it deserves. In order to do this mechanically correct, you better put in a lot of time and reps in doing it. I simply have not. And most of all, the reason is because my shoulders don't allow for it. And the mobility that I have in my shoulders because of my labrums don't allow me to do the exercise properly. That said, this is an exercise that I have my athletes do because I have a high respect for the value it can provide if you do it properly and if your body is prepared to do it. I'm going to respectfully pass. However, if your body is willing and able to do the exercise, I can certainly get behind the value of it. Oh shit, let me do that again. Okay, that's better. See, we're talking about the lunge, and my issue is with the forward lunge. And no, it's not my issue for everyone else with the exercise necessarily, but for me. And my knees have always been a problem. And I realize there are benefits to learning how to adapt your body to moving forward in that anterior sagittal plane. Matter of fact, we talk about how necessary it is to perform a squat properly and to have the right mobility at your ankle to allow something like that. Knees over toes guy, yes, I see you, and I respect what you're doing. You've done a good job of educating people as well as to the importance of the exercise. However, for me, the thing I find to be the best is to just simply do a reverse lunge. By stepping backward, the big issue for me that I overcome is not my knees being over my toes, but it's the way that my foot hits the ground. You see, I have incredibly flat feet. But every time I step forward into a lunge, the issue is how my foot lands. I don't have good control of the arch as it collapses as I go down to the ground, which tends to drive my knee not just forward, but in, causing some strain and stress on my knee. For me, when I go backwards, I'm already in contact with the ground. I don't have to step and go through that pronation. The foot is already in position, and by stepping back, I take away any of the issues that I have and still can load the exercise the way I like to. And so there's a pain deep inside me that reminds me all the time of why I don't like this exercise. We're talking about the one-arm dumbbell row. And I've actually stopped doing this exercise a long time ago because 2 hernias were incurred by me on the same exercise. Why? We realize the weakness and the susceptibility of the inguinal canal when we assume this position and then hold a heavy weight. I've actually had 4 athletes have the same injury happen to them in the weight room doing this exact same exercise. And more importantly, when I realized I've got a better option by just simply putting both feet on the ground, I don't have to worry about those asymmetrical stresses, and I still get all the benefits of the row without having to have any of those risks. So if there's anything worse than the exercises that I won't do again, it's the exercises that I don't think really anybody should do again. I put those together for you in a video, the 11 worst exercises. You're going to want to check that out over here. If you're looking for programs that put the smart exercises in every program we do, you can find them at ATHLEAN-X.com. If you haven't done so already, make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video when I put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.